Well, in the interest of time and your position and so forth, we'll begin with a little opening here as to what we did for the last 2 days. And then I'm going back to finish my omelets. But
Well, I want to know, was it worthwhile?
absolutely. You know what? It reminds me, I was president of our Rotary Club, and I went to the Rotary International meeting, and I was so impressed that talking about polio plus and getting rid of polio, I wish everyone in the club could have gone, and Mary Ann went with me, and it's the same thing. I wish everyone in the church could attend this kind of meeting. The workshops are great. I'm jumping ahead, but the anti-Semitism, anti-racism, I thought was very good. But let me just go
Well,
quickly.
pile us in a van and take us down the next time.
Well, that's a good idea. I think that'd be a great idea. What do you think, Coach?
Sure.
Anyway,
They're always looking for convention volunteers too.
yeah.
Well, I saw a list of workshops and they looked downright
So
interesting.
you can go, Bill.
Nobody will stop me at the gate.
It was a website development and anti-racism, social media, finance. Those are the big ones, I guess, overall. Anyway, about 760 people attended, and there probably were about 60 that didn't show. So they had over 800 registrants. If my numbers are off, yell, Father
Oh,
Chris.
you're good.
Um,
It got less because of some
Ball game.
Michigan State.
Yeah, that screwed the whole thing up. I'll tell you more about the game if you like to hear that.
If I can get equal time to talk about the Northwestern Wisconsin.
Sure.
Oh, wow.
This is a Big Ten
Northwestern and
country.
Wisconsin.
Anyway, Dirk and I both attended different seminars at the same time so we could get a foothold on everything that was available. But the things that I think overall, in fact, Father Bob was elected to the bishop and trustees. His nominating speech didn't go over very well, so he had a big fight to make it in, unopposed. So,
I barely got in unopposed. There was no nominating speech.
and in any event, so that was a good thing. That adds also, Brad Summers made it last year. It's a 3-year term, I think. So in any event, that's good. We talked about the various things that we have a little graph here. Oops. Yeah. These are the things that the diocese is concerned about. The bishops and trustees. Bishops and trustees own the property, essentially, all the properties within the diocese. There are 120 some odd churches within the diocese, I think, is 123. Again, that's the number those are the numbers we were given the other night. And the control of money is listed on each one of those circles. In fact, a former member of the church, David Beacon, is now the head of the endowment committee for the diocese. Most of you know him. The class about anti-racism I thought was extremely good. They had a panel of minority people each giving points about what they're doing, and it was quite a bit of discussion back and forth, and it seems to me that they're not quite there. In fact, one of the questions was, are we there yet? And one of the people on the panel said, no, but we're working to get there. And I thought that's extremely important. The keynote speaker was outstanding. Dirk's going to go into that. I think she talked for an hour without one note about women who have had problems along the way, and they set up a school for them, and now another one is coming in Park Ridge, I believe. let's see, what else?
Park Forest.
Park Forest, is it? Park Forest. And the other thing I thought was quite good was the website presentation. Talked about the do's and don'ts, never include children in the website, and certain adults. That's important, and that was very well stressed. They gave us some of the websites, weebee.com, to go to. I think that's more relegated to whoever is doing our website, but that would have been a good thing for that person to attend that meeting. You know, I got it.
Pardon me, I'm clumsy.
You want to jump
There's another one here.
Yeah.
in?
Yeah, Roger's comment about the, it's actually called Magdalene House or Magdalene Society. It's started by a woman who was the daughter of a priest, lived in Nashville most of her life, and this group, this society, helps women who've been put out on the street for whatever reason, a variety of issues that get them to be out on the street and to become part of the sex trade. Whether they are directly or indirectly are forced into it, but obviously want to get out of it and want to find some way to rehabilitate their lives and get back into the normal mainstream. And this woman, Becca Stevens, a very dynamic speaker, which Roger referred to, gave the keynote speech, very inspirational, very down to earth. I mean, this is a lady who's got passion, drive, a lot of common sense. I think you took, Father Chris refer to it as moxie. But anyway, she started this house, and the concept is that women come into it, they form their own society, they form their own leadership. They aren't told what to do. There isn't a professional that says these are the do's and don'ts. They come to this house, they get support. It's theologically informed, but it's not spiritually mandated. So people they're given a little bit of instruction in terms about theology, but they find their own way in terms of their spirituality. They find their own way in terms of how they connect together emotionally and develop relationships, which is an interesting concept. No direction, as the lady pointed out. Either somebody, because many of these women have been forced to do things in their past, they don't like to be told what to do. If you tell them what to do, they're not going to do it. Or you get the other side that says, I'm going to be the perfect house guest. I'm going to be the perfect resident. I'm going to be the perfect student. So they try too hard to please. The best way for these women to get back to normalcy is to work it out themselves. The first house that she started was on her own block. Now think about that.
2 doors down.
Right down the street, not in my backyard. She figured out a way to get around that. So it's called Thistle Farms, I think. Is that right? Thistle Farms is the name of the place. And they do a lot of agriculture stuff to keep them busy. So in Nashville, that works quite well. When they come to Chicago, and I guess the hope is it'll happen in 2016, and they're still looking actually for a place, but it's, you say Forest Park is the...
I think it's,
The land, I think they have, don't they?
Yeah.
Forest Park.
But when it happens, it's not big. I mean, the house, the first house, I think, had 5 or 6 people. I don't know how big they actually get, but as I understand it, they have Thistle Farms or Magdalene homes around the country, and coming to Chicago will be big, and obviously the diocese supports it. My general feelings about the diocesan council, and I was one 10 or 15 years ago, and then last year, and then this year, is that we understand and we learn that we're part of a greater church. A lot of wonderful things happen here, and we all are aware of that, but we're part of a greater church that can, have a broader reach, and our diocese has something like 125 congregations. Roughly 75% are actual parishes. The other 25 to 20% are missions. And the missions obviously are supported by the diocese. But there's a movement to try to get missions to become actual parishes so that they don't live on the dole, so to speak, for too long. You know, you can become too dependent upon somebody else solving your problems or holding your hand. And we had a great example of that just here in October when, what was her name? Heidi spoke about Narnia.
Narnia?
Narnia, yeah, I'm not familiar. I'm not
Cluster.
Yeah,
It ends with an N.
I listened to it. I wasn't into Narnia when growing up or even as an adult. But anyway, there was a case of a mission that started in 1971, and in 2015 they become an actual parish. And so that was a big celebration when she could stand up with her, some of the members of the congregation. And so that was a big deal. I think the last time there had been a case where we had a mission that became a full independent parish was four years ago or something like that. It doesn't happen a lot, but we've got, with 20-some missions in our diocese, hopefully we'll have more of these congregations become full independent parishes. I was impressed by the overall talent level. Within the diocese, there are, I think, like 20 full-time employees that support the bishop and the bishop's activities in various, whether it be finance, be administration, be in outreach programs, be congregational development, a variety of areas that support the diocese. And the talent level is, really, really high. And I think Father Chris attests to that, but you can also see it. You also get a sense that the people are all pulling together, that there is a real common goal. We're a very diverse, very, very diverse diocese, and some of the speakers talked about that, and that's recognized throughout the national church. We're one of the more diverse. Obviously, a big city lends to that, but even among big cities, I have a feeling that we are recognized as being diverse, and that's a real source of strength, and we managed to bring that diversity together and work together. So this sense of talent pulling together. There's also an openness. There's also a willingness to talk about issues, to talk about, I think, our finances, which are very complex at the diocesan level. That handout you've got there talks about various buckets of money, and we've got lots of buckets of money, and some of them directly come into the budget on a yearly basis. Some of them are a little more indirect. So, getting a handle on that. We do have some resources, but obviously we have to manage them quite carefully so that they not only meet current needs but future needs. The sense of outreach was there. Working in the greater community. One of the programs that one of the rectors, Bonnie, what's Bonnie's last name? Bonnie Perry from All Saints in Ravenswood, who's been a force in the diocese for a long time, is actively involved in a number of programs, and she's done a lot of things in terms of the diversity area. But she came up, I think, with this idea about crosswalk. I think is the name of the program that helps. It's really dealing with gun violence in Chicago and trying to protect the kids. And we annually now for the last 2 or 3 years, the bishop has led a walk through parts of Chicago, bringing out in the open our concern about gun violence, especially as it impacts kids. And so one of the bishop's requests, every year they pass the hat. Please put some money into this. Is sort of the bishop's appeal. You have to go there with some cash, or now you can go online. And, you can spend more money if you hit the same number too many times. But it's to create internships for kids in the inner city, with the idea being if you've got a job, you're probably in a more safe situation than you are if you're out on the street. So it's a small program. They're hoping to get just 10 kids in these scholarship or internship programs this summer. But that's the kind of stuff that's going on, which is very very comforting, very inspirational. I attended, Roger said that we both attended some of the same workshops. We did them independently. I spent a little more time on the financial side, because if you understand the numbers, you understand where the money comes and where it goes, you kind of get an idea of what's going on within the organization. So, and here's, part of the talent level. The person who talked quite a bit about this is a woman by the name of Courtney, and I can't remember Courtney's last name.
Reed, R-E-I-D.
Courtney Reed. She's dynamic. She's terrific. She's the director of operations, but she understands all of these buckets and how the money comes into the overall budget. I'll give you this as another handout. This was at one of these workshops, but it kind of shows in a thumbnail where the money comes from and where it goes, and it gets to really the core of what the diocese wants to speak to. 3 different categories we consider. We have basically 3 different missions or 3 different points of focus. One is growing the church, the other is forming the faithful, and the third is, and now I'm going to have to accept this, Bob, changing the world. We are out to change the world.
You wonder where I got that line.
I know where you got it, and so I'm gonna.
Can we put it back in next year?
Okay, we'll put it back in changing the world. I tend to be a believer in small steps that you can actually measure, as opposed to grand ideas that you can't measure.
Like Christianity.
We're both coming from the same place spiritually, though.
Yep, we are.
So, but these are the 3 categories, and you can see it's roughly a third, a third, a third. And if you look down in the lower right-hand column, and you say, well, where does this, well, not even a column, just in the lower right-hand corner, you see that our money comes from, our total budget for the diocese is about 4.6 million. I guess it doesn't show the 4.6, but 54% of it comes from congregational pledges. Some congregations can't pledge because they don't have enough money. I was told we have a congregation that has the ability to pledge, but just for some reason refuses to. There's always that one. And the other sources of revenue are the Nicholas Center. The Nicholas Center is.
Are you familiar with the Nicholas Center downtown at the cathedral?
We had a speaker that talked
Yeah.
about it, one priest that was here.
Okay.
Okay, I missed that, but it sounds like
It was in the fall, I think.
a great program. Yeah, maybe I missed that. But it's a place, where you for vestry retreats, for meetings, for congregational development. I guess it's like a little hotel with meeting rooms on the 5th floor of our office building downtown. And so it provides a lot of support, but they charge for the use of their services. If a congregation or a group doesn't have the money, they're still encouraged to come, and somehow they come up with it. The diocese comes up with it. The bishop's appeal, a fairly small amount, but I don't know whether this appeal for funds for the crosswalk program is a part of that or not, but the bishop extends invitations directly to the diocese to raise money for various things. Investment income, I think this comes from a couple of what I would call passion buckets of money that people have left in various trusts to fulfill certain things that they individually feel very strongly about, and also from the general endowment, I guess. And then we've got contributions and other support. So here's sort of our budget, and I think I'm safe in saying that historically, or in the last, I don't know how many years, our contribution to the diocese is probably what you would put up in the underperformed category. And I know we're having conversations about getting us up to a better level. We have a lot of needs here, but the diocese, again, has needs, and it seems like year after year their budget sort of decreases, whereas we're fortunate enough that our budget has been going the other way. If you go back to 2009, when the Great Recession hit, everybody had to cut back, but a number of dioceses are now able to give, back at the level that they were giving before, and I don't think we've quite gotten there yet, but we're working towards that, and I think hopefully in this coming budget we'll have a little bit more to contribute. So anyway, I would second Roger's comments about it being a very worthwhile 2 days. I got a lot out of the workshops. I thought the one on the website was terrific. Some really good ideas about that. The lady who gave that particular workshop, she's with a consulting company out of Ohio, and so she puts on these presentations for a living. This is her business, and I guess she's worked with a lot of churches, but maybe not exclusively churches, and you know, pretty straightforward stuff. But she said the website is the public's window into what goes on within this church. Obviously, the website is meant to be a form of communication for people within the church, but if that's what it's all about, you're wasting your time and your money. You want people to look in that window and see something that they quickly understand, that they can easily navigate, that they can feel comfortable with. You want to define who you are. You don't want to be so general as to, you know, not say who you are. So you want to talk about who you are, but you want to put that in language that people who maybe are not churchgoers or would be say, you know, that organization seems to have some stuff that's...
One of the keys they could tell by the experts could, by just looking at the profile on the website, what kind of a church it is. It just, they're so good at that they explained, you know, this is conservative, this is something else, and so on. They could actually to get a feel for the type of, you didn't have to show any people, just what they're talking about. The thing that I didn't see much on is stewardship. Even though a lot of the headlines on I forget the term in terms of computers, but the bullets that drop down things, there wasn't much discussion about that, and I think that's a sensitive subject because of how you ask. And whereas probably some are more reluctant to make an all-out ask, I think this is my hunch that it was avoided for a number of reasons. But I'd really like to get a feel for it from Courtney as to what their feeling is on it. Because to me, it's the number one thing in a church. What else structurally can put it together to afford to do what you do?
So the diocese has hired somebody to address that issue and will be. I will tell you where Grace Church falls in the scope of that. What we do here at Grace Church creates a lot of discomfort across the diocese, largely because of our attempts to be transparent. Now that doesn't mean transparent that we publish people's giving, but transparent in that we, in our asking, you're able to see what your annual, over a 3-year given period, what your giving has been with a suggested giving. When I presented this to my fellow deans, it was violently rejected because the idea was this should happen between you, God, and the rector. And that doesn't seem to be spiritually very foundational. And so, but the diocese has said, we applaud Grace Church and its leadership efforts to talk about openly about what stewardship means. Nationally, the diocese underperforms in this area. Texas happens to be one of the leaders, but the Midwest, I guess I'd be making it up, conservative, fiduciary posturing, and Grace Church historically has been presented itself as being reactive and talking about issues of giving. But that's changing here. I will tell you that after I talked about our program, just about every dean privately came to me and said, how do you do that? And we said, how you do it is you first ground people in a relationship with God that's authentic. And then it's not seen as threatening. It is a transparent part of somebody's life. And so I've got lots of calls and meetings now to say, okay, how do you lead somebody spiritually? Which makes me curious, that question. But we're happy to sit with other clergy who are leading parishes And it's really not about the clergy, it's about the laity. And you'll get a sense of that here, that the clergy are here to serve in a capacity, and that's why the stewardship team is so strong, and you get that sense on your card, that transparent piece. So it's a big thing, and we believe it has to do with the testimony of one's spiritual life, and how one's attached to this world, and gratitude and everything we went to church. So that's a bigger
Yeah, I
piece.
think the transparency is the big issue.
Makes
Key
people
issue.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, but, why are others having difficulties and they're less
Right.
transparent?
I
And that's one of the things, obviously.
I don't know, it's not some scheme to raise more money, it's
No.
an invitation to grow, is what it is.
I think we say it's not about the money.
No,
Yeah.
It's about who we are as human beings. It's about who we are as a parish, and where do we want to go together.
I think it has to do with what the church offers too. As a
Programs,
church.
you mean, and things? What?
Activities, friendliness. I've been in some Episcopal churches, and I'm a very outgoing person, and my husband is too, where they wouldn't even speak to you if you were a visitor. And so you sense this church isn't very friendly. We're just sitting here in the pew, and they say that Episcopalians like to go to early church and then get out the door. I mean, that's ever since I can remember, been the theory of the Episcopal church. Don't touch me, don't talk to me, and I'm just here to worship. And this church has got a friendliness to it. Having only been here 3 years, I can sense that. And I think that's part of the problem. I had a person talk to me about giving at a church that's very much in trouble in our area. And she said, I received a pledge card. I don't know if I want to fill it out. What's the future of this church? And I think if the church doesn't act like it's got a future, why would you pledge?
somebody came to me here and said it was considering a larger gift into our endowment. And they said, I'm looking for a guarantee. And I said, I'm going to give you one. This form will pass you by. And they said, no, I want to guarantee that the money I give will be expended in a way that preserves some of the things you're talking about. And I said, there's no guarantee for that. Matter of fact, the supreme giving is to give to this person, I know the parish, I think,
Yeah.
is to give more, double it now, in the face of nothing. And then that's something. It's tough here because at Grace Church, we listen a lot. There's a consumer mentality. What's in it for me? And the answer is nothing. Because when you ask it that way, you're looking for something that we aren't called to provide. Programming and all those things are going away. I mean, it's just a program. Sometimes it speaks to us and sometimes it doesn't.
Well, to coattail off of that, we've had a lot of newcomers over the last 4 years. And looking at the amount of people that signed up for Circle of Grace, for one thing, it's almost a third of newcomers, and there's 71 people that signed up. That's about 20 more than the previous year. So those type of programs where you're moving around to get to know other parishioners is just one way of extending who we are, and it's more than just going up to the into the church. It's also a relationship that the body of the church, I think, is helping to build. The GEMS, the GEC have all been instruments in getting that along the same line. And participation is the biggest thing. Taking part in Altar Guild, in the Grace Cafe, and lecturing, and Eucharistic ministry. Participation, where you're taking ownership to something, makes a heck of a lot more difference. I'm not just going to church and out the door. And maybe that mentality was good back some time ago. I don't understand how someone could feel any good about what they're doing if they're in and out just to say, I did it.
People
Who are you
need to be
kidding?
needed too.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah,
And when they feel that they're needed and then they do things.
yeah.
See, I want it to be clear, I need everybody in this room.
You want to be needed at this church. It just has that feeling.
Sure.
I think we need to be innovative of how we can attract
who's
people,
got-
obviously the academy has
Yeah.
brought families in. And I know, I think Father Chris has said this, that when he started this Chef Al breakfast, they thought he was crazy. But if you see what it has done, first of all, a thing that's a problem with Episcopal church is you have an early church and you have a late church, and two congregations, two separate congregations sometimes. You gotta figure out a way to
Well,
bring them
that's one way to
together.
blend them.
And this has done that, because I've talked to other people.
You had
Did you have a question for Roger,
Or Diane, I
or the
think.
rector?
Diane.
Huh?
Do you have a question for Roger or the rector, or?
Well, no, I was just gonna say, with the transparency, I think it's hard, the churches that weren't transparent, to gradually bring them out of that, because they've been indoctrinated with that for many years.
It can be shocking at first,
Yeah.
but there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not a scheme, it's not a money-making
No.
scheme.
But I mean, it took a while here,
Yeah.
because over the 40 odd years we've been here, it's been up and down like that, depending on who was saying. So it's hard sometimes to get people out of that have been in it all their lives.
Yeah, well, Jesus called Lazarus out of the tomb,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's a call to come out.
Can I say,
I'm gonna,
you talked about the diversity of churches in our diocese, and we're gonna see that firsthand next Sunday,
Oh,
right? When we get a good group of the parishioners from St. Helena's to come join us, and many of us were there over the last couple of weeks, and it is a very different parish. We'll get a sense, but I can tell you it's a very different service. We were there when they were in Spanish, so we didn't understand the words, but they were obviously following our liturgy to a certain degree with all kinds of different music. And it was eye-opening for me, and I would encourage all of us next Sunday to come with a very open mind and recognize there are going to be clear differences you're going to see immediately, and at the end of the day, we have one thing in common, and it's our connection with God. So it's going to be really interesting, I
He
think,
was
next
here
Sunday.
at the pre-convention dinner that we had Thursday night, last Thursday. Since Father Chris is the dean, he invites the dean to dinner, and he was here and sat next to us. And at the banquet, what do you call it? The dinner after on Friday night, we had him join us. He and his wife. He had a pink shirt on with his collar. Look.
His
And,
mother makes all those for him. So
is that
he's
right?
got a
He said
variety-
yellow is tomorrow.
He's got a variety of colors.
Yeah.
The problem down at St. Helena, St. Helena, is that I was just at a woman's house who was a member, who was Caucasian, and she's really struggling. She's feeling pushed out.
Because it's switching.
And she had another woman at this party who was from there, and they don't quite know what